Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepless Scientist. A quiet place in the cosmos where your thoughts can unwind, and knowledge becomes a soft lullaby for the night. Tonight's journey will take us into the strange and beautiful mystery of time itself, with a gentle question drifting through it all. Does the future already exist? But before you settle in and get cozy, I'd love if you could take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Only if you truly find these quiet explorations enjoyable. And when you're ready, leave a comment to let me know where in the world you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. It's always such a joy to see all the places we gather from, each in our own little slice of time. Now, feel free to dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for a soft background hum, and let's gently begin our journey into time together. And if your mind begins to wander, that's perfectly fine. Let it drift. We'll still be here, quietly unfolding the story. So, where exactly are you right now? Not your physical location, though that's always interesting too. I mean in time. You might say, right now it's 10:42 p.m. I'm lying in bed and I'm listening to this. And that's true. But that moment you just described, the one you were in a second ago, is already gone. And this one too is slipping by. And now, well, now we're somewhere else entirely, aren't we? Time is curious like that. It feels solid and steady, like a floor you walk on, or a thread you follow through the forest of your life. But the more you try to pin it down, the more it behaves like a breeze, gentle, ever-moving, impossible to hold. Scientists define it with astonishing precision, down to nanoseconds. Philosophers, on the other hand, seem to both love and resent it. Artists shape it into stories, musicians wrap it in rhythm, and you live in it, breathe through it, feel it. Right now, somewhere in your body, there's a heartbeat tapping along at its quiet pace. Your breath rises and falls. The temperature of your skin gently fluctuates. Tiny cells in your brain are oscillating, firing, dancing to a rhythm that is not yours exactly, and not entirely theirs either. It's shared, this rhythm. It's something ancient, older than cities or calendars. It's the body's own language of time. And yet, even while your biology ticks along, you also experience time in much more personal ways. Sometimes it stretches, sometimes it slips. An hour at the dentist can feel like a slow geological process, but a conversation with someone you love might vanish in what feels like a blink. Waiting for a kettle to boil feels different than waiting for the results of something important. And all of it, every second, is made not just by the world around you, but by the rhythms inside you. There's a beautiful idea that's come out of sleep science and biology, and it's this. Your sense of time is not a single metronome. It's a symphony. You're made of rhythms, many rhythms, not all playing at the same tempo, but coordinating, adapting, responding. Your body knows when to release melatonin to make you sleepy. It knows when to raise your core temperature to wake you up. It knows when to flood you with cortisol to help you respond to stress. Even the bacteria in your gut follow little circadian cycles, dancing to the same solar song that plants respond to. Time lives in you, but it's not just inside. It's all around too. There's the slow arc of the sun across the sky, the one we've watched for as long as we've had eyes to see. There are seasons that rise and fall like breath. There are 3 rings, glacier layers, ancient ice cores, fossils from creatures that lived when continents hadn't yet split apart. And there's your own past, quietly folded into you. Memories stitched together by a brain that can't help but tell stories, even in sleep. And still, we ask, where is now? You can point to your watch, you can check your phone, you can say, now is this. But by the time you speak the words, they're no longer true. Your now has moved. It always does. So maybe now isn't a point at all. Maybe it's a zone, a small stretch of sand between 2 rising tides. Maybe the present isn't a razor-thin line, but a soft shoreline, gently dissolving into what was and what will be. Tonight, we're going to explore time from many angles. We'll listen to the music of the body. We'll float through the mathematics of physics. We'll wander through dreams and memories and ancient starlight. We'll ask what it means for the future to exist, if it does at all. And we'll do it slowly, softly, like a walk through a quiet garden at dusk. But for now, you're simply here. And I'm so glad you are. Let's stay here a little longer, just breathing, just listening, just noticing that somehow, even if we don't quite understand it, time is holding us. Or maybe we're holding it. Either way, let's not rush. Let's let the moment bloom. If someone asked you to describe what time is, you might instinctively look around for a clock. Or maybe you'd glance toward a window to check the position of the sun. Time, after all, is what we live by. It's how we organise our lives, measure our days, and understand what came before and what might be coming next. But for something so essential, so constantly present, time is remarkably elusive when you try to define it. Is it something that flows? Is it a dimension, like space? Is it just change? Or a perception shaped by memory and anticipation? You might not think about these questions often, but you feel their answers. When you reach for your phone and see it's already midnight, when you hear a song that pulls you instantly into a moment from years ago, when you stare out the window during a long afternoon and wonder if the minutes have slowed just to tease you. Time behaves strangely in the hands of the mind. It stretches when we suffer, it shrinks when we laugh, and it disappears entirely when we're lost in thought. It doesn't tick in straight lines, it dances. We have, as humans, always tried to tame time. We've built sundials, hourglasses, wristwatches, and atomic clocks. We've split it into neat units, seconds, minutes, hours, each one clicking into place like tiles on a mosaic. But this neatness is an illusion. Time itself isn't neat. It doesn't arrive in tidy packets. The universe doesn't make appointments. In fact, if you strip away the tools we use to measure it, time becomes something much more fluid, something almost personal. Without clocks or calendars, you'd still feel time. You'd feel it in the way your stomach rumbles when it's time to eat. You'd feel it in the way shadows lengthen on the floor as afternoon turns to evening. You'd sense it in the fading of a scent, the slowing of your breath, the softness that creeps into your limbs as sleep approaches. Time, for you, is rhythm. And rhythm, curiously, doesn't need precision to exist. A song can still be a song, even if it's played a little offbeat. A heart still beats, even when it skips. And life still flows, beautifully and messily, even if the minutes don't fall into line. But scientists, for all their love of precision, have also found themselves staring at the strangeness of time. The more deeply we've studied the universe, the more unsettling the picture becomes. Time, it turns out, may not be fundamental. In some theories of quantum gravity, it doesn't even exist as a separate entity. It emerges like a mirage from the relationship between things. It's not something the universe has. It's something the universe does. And even in classical physics, time doesn't behave the way we think it should. Newton imagined it as absolute, a cosmic clock ticking steadily through the void. But Einstein showed us that time bends. It stretches near massive objects like stars and black holes. It contracts when you move quickly. 2. Observers in different places can disagree on whether two events happened at the same time, and both can be right. In Einstein's world, time is part of space itself, a fourth dimension in a cosmic fabric. So now we're left with a curious duality. On the one hand, you experience time emotionally, biologically, subjectively. You live it as a sequence of moments, now this, now that, now this again. On the other hand, physics suggests time may not flow at all, that past, present and future may all coexist, and that the flow we feel is something our minds create. This tension, the pull between what we feel and what we learn, gives time its poetry. You might picture time as a river, flowing from the mountains of yesterday toward the oceans of tomorrow. Or perhaps it's a thread, being woven into a tapestry stitch by stitch. Maybe it's a wheel, always turning, or a wave, lapping gently at the shores of consciousness. Whatever metaphor you choose, it's just that. A metaphor. A way for the mind to hold something that doesn't sit still. And yet these images help. They let us describe what we cannot contain. When you say, "I lost time," or "time stood still," or "that time of my life," you're not being literal, but you're being deeply truthful. You're naming an experience. You're saying something real about how it feels to move through this strange, shifting dimension. Think, for a moment, about the last time you felt truly present. Maybe it was watching the sunrise, or holding someone's hand, or sitting in stillness with nothing to distract you. In that moment, time wasn't something ticking away. It was something you were inside. You weren't just passing through it. You were it. And that's a lovely mystery, isn't it? That you, with your fragile body and wandering mind, are somehow able to experience this thing we call time. That you can sense it pass, remember its echoes, and imagine its path forward. So maybe we shouldn't be asking what time is. Maybe we should be asking what we are, to feel it the way we do. As we move into the next part of our journey, we'll begin to listen more closely to the body's timekeepers, its pulses and waves, its sleepy cycles and hidden clocks. But before we go there, pause for a moment. Feel the quiet room around you, the weight of the air, the slow rhythm of your breath. You're not late, you're exactly where you are, and maybe, just maybe, so is the future. Inside your chest, without your permission, and without ever asking for applause, something has been quietly keeping time since before you were even born. The human heartbeat is not a machine's rhythm. It is something deeper, older, more nuanced. It accelerates when you're afraid, slows when you rest, skips when you feel something unexpected. But it never truly stops while you live, and every beat, every tiny muscular contraction carries with it the signature of life existing in time. You might think of time as something that happens outside you, a sunrise, a train schedule, a deadline. But long before you learned to read a clock or follow a calendar, your body had already been obeying a far more ancient timekeeper. A circadian rhythm, roughly 24 hours long, woven into the chemistry of your brain and skin and blood. You're not just aware of time. You're time, wrapped in flesh, informed by light and dark, swayed by temperature and food, and the tilt of the earth itself. Even now as you lie there, maybe curled up beneath a blanket, maybe letting your eyes grow heavy, your body is busy. Inside every cell, little proteins are oscillating in predictable cycles. Hormones are rising and falling, neurons are resting or waking. There are clocks inside you, not just in your brain, but in your liver, your muscles, your gut. Each one is ticking, not to a universal standard, but to its own local rhythm. And somehow, without you thinking about it, these rhythms coordinate, like 1,000 instruments playing in different rooms, yet still making music. That's what time is inside us. Not a single tempo, but a complex harmony. Consider this. In the quiet hours of early morning, your body begins preparing to wake long before you open your eyes. Cortisol levels rise slowly, helping you feel more alert. Your body temperature inches up. Melatonin, the hormone of darkness and dreams, begins to retreat. And when you finally do wake, whether to an alarm or the first light spilling across the room, you're not flipping a switch. You're arriving at the crest of a slow biological wave. And then there's the rhythm of sleep, which isn't simply a pause in consciousness, but a cycle of profound and elegant transitions. As you fall asleep, your brain doesn't turn off. It shifts through stages of light sleep into deep, slow wave sleep, and then into REM, where the mind becomes a theatre of strange stories. Each cycle lasts about 90 minutes, repeating again and again through the night. Your brain replays emotional moments, files away memories, prunes useless data, and even resets emotional circuits. Sleep scientists call this choreography sleep architecture, a lovely phrase, as if your brain were building cathedrals in the dark. And if you've ever felt groggy after a night of interrupted rest, it's not just the number of hours that matter, it's the rhythm. If the cycles are broken, if you don't reach certain stages, the music of rest becomes noise. You awaken, not because your body is done sleeping, but because the concert was cut short. Rhythms govern even smaller things too. Your core body temperature ebbs and flows throughout the day. Your alertness comes in waves. Your digestion follows a schedule whether you want it to or not. Even your mood can be mapped, in part by time. Some people feel bright in the morning, others in the soft glow of evening. These are not flaws. They are features of a species that evolved, under skies that change predictably, under suns that set and rise with regularity. But not all rhythms are daily. Some are seasonal, some unfold over months. The menstrual cycle is a deeply time-bound process, affecting not only reproduction, but mood, energy, and cognition. Even men have subtle hormonal cycles across days and weeks. In winter, many animals enter torpor or hibernation, extended rhythms of conservation. Some trees grow in bursts and then seem to pause, holding their breath for spring. There is, it seems, a patience to time when it's allowed to be slow, and sometimes rhythms break. Jet lag is not just feeling tired, it's your internal clocks arguing with the light. Shift work, artificial light at night, caffeine at odd hours. All these can scramble the music inside us, making the instruments of our body lose sync. You feel foggy, irritable, disoriented. Not because time is broken, but because your harmony with it is. So, how do we realign? We slow down. We go outside. We let light hit our skin in the morning and allow darkness to return at night. We eat at regular hours. We rest when tired, not just when it's convenient. We learn to treat rhythm not as a rule but as a companion, one we can walk beside, even if we sometimes lose step. In all this, one truth becomes clear. Time is not only something we measure, it is something we are. When your heart beats, when your eyes blink, when you breathe in and out without thinking, these are not just signs of life. They are songs of time, soft percussion, steady melody, a tempo that began before you were aware, and that will carry on until the final movement of your existence. And what's beautiful is that your rhythms are not isolated. They connect you to others, to the seasons, to the stars. They are shaped by the rotation of a planet, the pull of the moon, the warmth of the sun. When you sleep at night, you're not just obeying your body, you're dancing with the cosmos. So next time you feel rushed, or lost in the blur of passing hours, pause. Listen for the rhythm underneath. It's still there. It hasn't left you. Your body remembers how to be in time, and time somehow remembers you too. Before you ever open your eyes, before your lungs took their first sip of air, before your name was spoken, or your fingers curled around a parent's hand, your heart was already keeping time. Somewhere in the quiet dark of your earliest becoming, a tiny cluster of cells began to pulse, not because someone told them to, not because they heard a sound or felt a rhythm to mimic. They simply began. They knew, somehow, without instruction. They beat, and then beat again. And with that second beat, the first rhythm of your life was born. This little metronome, known as the sinoatrial node, sits nestled in the upper chamber of your heart. It's not much to look at, just a small group of specialized cells, but it is your internal timekeeper, a conductor that never asks for applause, yet keeps every moment in step. It's one of the only parts of your body that doesn't wait for direction from the brain. Even in isolation, even when removed and placed in a dish, it will continue to pulse, steady, unhurried, determined. There's something deeply comforting about that, isn't there? To think that a part of you has been keeping time since before you knew what time was. Long before you could worry about being late, or count the minutes left in a day, or remember when something happened, your heart was already creating its own music. It was already aware, in its quiet cellular way, that to be alive is to exist in rhythm. Every minute that rhythm sends your entire volume of blood on a grand tour of your body. A cycle that loops roughly every 60 seconds. From heart to lungs, from lungs to organs, from organs to the fingertips and toes and back again. This journey never pauses. Even while you sleep, even when you are still, your blood is in motion. And with each pulse, time passes. Not the measured kind, but the lived kind. The kind that saturates your muscles with oxygen, that keeps you warm, that lets your thoughts rise and fall like waves. But your heart doesn't keep perfect time, not like a machine would. It's more organic than that, more alive. Its rhythm shifts as you breathe, speeds up when you climb stairs, slows down when you rest. It's responsive, intuitive, and this variability is not a flaw, it's a feature. A heart that never varies is a heart under stress. Healthy hearts wander a little, they listen and adjust. This adaptability is part of what scientists call heart rate variability, and it's a subtle but powerful indicator of your body's balance. High variability often means your nervous system is flexible and resilient, able to shift gears between alertness and calm. Low variability might mean the opposite, but here again, it's not about judgment, it's just about rhythm, about how your internal instruments are tuning themselves to the world around you. Think, for a moment, about all the things that affect your heart's tempo. Emotions are perhaps the most immediate. A sudden fright sends it racing. A deep exhale slows it down. Love can make it stutter. Grief can make it ache. Anticipation, embarrassment, joy. They all ripple through that hidden drummer behind your ribs. And though we rarely notice it unless it skips or pounds, our heart is responding constantly, writing its quiet music in response to the world. In fact, researchers have found that the heart is so sensitive to emotional context that it can begin to respond before your brain fully registers an event. There are hints, still debated, of a feedback loop between your expectations, your feelings, and the rhythm your heart keeps. It's as if your body sometimes knows what's coming before you do. There's something poetic in that idea, that your heart is both historian and prophet. It remembers every sharp intake of breath, every restful sigh, and it carries all of them forward in its beat. Even now as you listen, it is writing this moment into your body, not as a thought, but as rhythm, soft and persistent. And yet, the heart doesn't work alone. The beat it offers is only part of a larger, more intricate song. There's the breath, of course, which moves in its own cycle, roughly 12 to 20 times a minute depending on mood, health and rest. There's digestion, moving in pulses and waves of its own. There's blinking, and the pace at which thoughts unfold. All of these things play together. All of them dance with the heartbeat. Some researchers call this the autonomic symphony, the elegant coordination of your body's internal systems, all guided by the nervous system but not requiring your attention. You don't have to think about it, you just have to live. And still, your body composes this music, day after day, year after year. And in that there's a gentle kind of reassurance. Because even when your thoughts are tangled, or your mind is full of noise, even when the world feels fast and sharp and hard to keep up with, your body is still keeping time. Your heart is still beating. Your blood is still flowing. There is a part of you that continues, unshaken, without permission or applause. You never had to ask your heart to begin. It never asked you for a reason to start. and it has never once waited. It simply is. So tonight, as you drift toward rest, perhaps let yourself tune in. Not to the hours or the deadlines or the minutes left before morning, but to the pulse beneath your fingers, the rhythm beneath your breath, the quiet beat that began before memory and will continue, softly, steadily, until your story gently closes. That beat is your first lullaby, and it's still singing. There's a moment, often unnoticed, when wakefulness begins to dissolve. The room doesn't change, but your attention does. The edges of thought soften. The body lets go in pieces. First the limbs, then the breath, then the sense of where you are. You might still hear sounds, but they seem less important now, like voices in another room. You aren't fully asleep, but you're not fully awake either. This borderland, the quiet threshold between day and night, is where time begins to loosen. Sleep is one of the most remarkable mysteries we experience, precisely because we do it every day, and yet know so little about it while it happens. For something that occupies about a third of our lives, it remains strangely invisible. You cannot observe your own sleep from the inside. You don't watch it unfold the way you might watch a movie. Instead, you surrender to it, and when you awaken, time has passed, but you don't remember how. What happens in those lost hours? Quite a lot, as it turns out. Sleep is not passive. It's not a simple off switch. Your brain doesn't power down during the night. It shifts into another mode entirely. As you drift into slumber, your brain begins a carefully orchestrated journey through distinct phases, each with its own pattern of brain waves, hormones, and bodily changes. Scientists refer to this journey as sleep architecture. A fitting term, since it suggests that sleep isn't just a state, but a structure, a cathedral built in the dark, intricate and sacred. The first stage, known as N1, is light sleep. You're still hovering near the surface, easily disturbed, easily awakened. It lasts only a few minutes. Then, in N2, your brain begins to block out external noise and unnecessary signals. Your body temperature drops, your heart rate slows, you begin to settle deeper. From there you enter N3, the phase of deep sleep. This is when your brain produces slow delta waves, and your body repairs itself. Cells regenerate, tissues heal, the immune system strengthens, but it's REM sleep, rapid eye movement, that has fascinated scientists the most. During REM, your brain becomes highly active. In fact, in some regions, it's as active as when you're awake. Your eyes flicker behind closed lids, your heart rate increases, breathing becomes irregular, and yet, paradoxically, your muscles go still. Your body is paralyzed almost entirely, a state called REM atonia. It's a protective mechanism designed to keep you from acting out your dreams, because yes, this is when you dream, and in this state time becomes especially strange. You may experience what feels like an entire evening in a single dream, or you may blink through a chaotic sequence of images, emotions, scenes. You might see people who are long gone, visit places you've never been, solve problems you didn't know you had, and none of it obeys the laws of waking logic or linear time. Dreams, in this sense, are the body's most surreal expression of time. In waking life, time is often tethered to consequences, each minute pulling the next, each action tied to outcome. But in dreams, time is free to loop, to break, to slow, to reverse. You might begin at the end of a story or find yourself in the middle of something with no beginning at all. You might relive a memory in perfect detail, only to discover that the next moment belongs to someone else's life. And while you dream, none of this seems unusual. It simply is. Scientists have studied dreams for decades, hoping to uncover what they're for. One leading theory is that dreaming is a form of emotional processing, a way for the brain to sort, rehearse, and file experiences. Another suggests that dreams allow for problem solving, often in symbolic or abstract ways. Still another view holds that dreams are random neural activity, interpreted by the brain into stories only after we wake. But perhaps the most beautiful idea is this, that dreams are how we practice being alive. Not just remembering the past, but preparing for the future. In dreams, we test scenarios, try out emotions, imagine responses. We simulate situations that haven't happened yet, and in doing so, we may be gently shaping our waking selves. We may be rehearsing for a life not yet lived. Sleep, then, becomes more than just rest. It becomes a kind of temporal theatre, a place where past, present and future can all meet without boundaries, where your body lies still but your mind travels, where time, normally so structured and measured, becomes fluid, porous, wild. And all of this happens on a cycle. Every night your brain moves through these stages 4 to 6 times. Each cycle takes about 90 minutes. The balance of light sleep, deep sleep, and REM shifts as the night progresses. In the early hours, you get more deep sleep. Later, as dawn nears, REM becomes more prominent. It's almost as if your brain knows when the day is about to return, and offers you one last voyage through your inner sky before you wake. Even your dreams seem to know the time. Some studies suggest that dreams near morning are more likely to involve the future, while those in early sleep deal more with the past. There is no clear consensus on why. But the implication is enchanting, that your body might somehow be preparing you emotionally for what's to come, that it is quietly feeling its way forward, even while you rest. So the next time you drift into sleep, remember, you're not stepping away from time. You're stepping deeper into its rhythms, its cycles, its dreamlike rearrangements. You're entering the place where your body rebuilds, your memories sift, and your imagination wanders without a leash. And when you awaken, you may not remember where you went, but you'll have been changed by it, shaped gently by the time beneath time. There is a peculiar thing that happens during sleep, a phenomenon so common that we barely question it, yet so strange that if it happened while we were awake, we might consider it a miracle or a message. In your dreams, you're not bound by where you are, or even who you are. You might find yourself walking through a house that doesn't exist, speaking languages you've never learned, reliving an old memory with someone who's long since disappeared. But just as often, you may find yourself somewhere that hasn't happened yet, a future that feels real, coherent, emotionally vivid, even if its details dissolve by morning. And while it's tempting to dismiss dreams as mental static, there's growing evidence that your dreaming mind may be more than just a mirror of the past. It may also be a rehearsal space for the future. Neuroscientists have discovered that the very same regions of the brain involved in recalling memories are also used when we imagine things that haven't happened yet. The hippocampus, often described as the brain's memory library, isn't only pulling up books from the past, it's also sketching out possible storylines that haven't yet occurred. This process is known as episodic future thinking, and it happens both when you're awake and intriguingly when you're asleep. In dreams, especially in REM sleep, your brain doesn't just replay, it recombines. It takes fragments of memory, images, voices, emotions, and weaves them into novel patterns. It asks, what if, without needing to justify itself. And in doing so, it creates simulations, some bizarre, others heartbreakingly familiar, of what could come next. Imagine, for instance, that you're preparing for an important event, a performance, a conversation, a decision. You might dream about it the night before, not in a literal step-by-step preview, but in a strange, emotional echo. You may feel the anxiety, anticipate the choices, even invent imaginary versions of how it might go. And although the dream may not predict the future, it prepares you for it. It gives you a dry run, an emotional trial, a rehearsal you didn't consciously ask for. Psychologists believe that this is one of the critical functions of dreaming. to create a mental sandbox where your brain can explore future scenarios, test responses, and train itself to adapt. This is particularly true of emotionally charged dreams, which often help us work through feelings that are unresolved or approaching. In this way, dreams are not just stories, they are internal forecasts, built not with data but with intuition, memory, and emotion. But this simulation process doesn't only occur during sleep. Even while awake, you likely engage in tiny acts of mental time travel dozens of times each day. You picture what you'll say in an upcoming meeting. You imagine how someone might react to a message. You visualize yourself in a place you've never been, responding to challenges that haven't arrived yet. These moments may pass quickly, almost invisibly, but they are the mind's way of gently placing you in the future before it arrives. What's remarkable is that the boundary between memory and imagination is not as solid as we might think. The same neural networks light up whether you're remembering your grandmother's kitchen or imagining yourself in a house by the sea 20 years from now. In both cases, your brain is assembling a scene, populating it with sensory details, and assigning it emotional weight. It's storytelling. But more than that, it's time travel, built from within. This may help explain why certain dreams can feel so profoundly true, even if they make no logical sense. They're tapping into the same mental machinery that helps you understand your own timeline. They're not nonsense, they're narratives. Not prophecies perhaps, but deeply felt possibilities. And sometimes they are strangely accurate. Almost everyone has had the experience, at least once, of dreaming something that later seemed to unfold in real life. A place you've never been that looks exactly like somewhere you end up. A conversation that plays out with eerie similarity. A feeling that something was somehow already familiar, even though it shouldn't be. These moments are usually explained by coincidence, selective memory, or the brain's tendency to find patterns. And scientifically, that's a reasonable explanation. But from a poetic perspective, these moments offer something else. A suggestion that your mind may already be reaching into possible futures, pulling threads back into the present without you realizing it. And that is perhaps the quiet beauty of dreaming. It blurs the line between what has happened and what could. It lets you move, gently and without resistance, between time zones that do not exist on any map. While your body lies still, your mind runs ahead, scouting the path. So what does this mean for the idea that the future already exists? It doesn't prove anything, not in the hard-edged, measurable way that science often demands. But it does suggest that within you, there is a felt sense of the future, not as a fixed destination, but as a landscape already imagined, a place your emotions have visited, a garden you've walked through in the fog of dreams. The philosopher Henri Bergson once argued that time is not a line, but a flow of experience, rich and unpredictable. And in dreams, perhaps, we glimpse that truth. Time is not just what we measure with clocks, it's what we imagine with hearts. So the next time you wake from a dream that leaves you puzzled, moved, or slightly haunted, consider this. Maybe it wasn't meant to show you something literal. Maybe it was just your mind's way of asking, could this be? And in asking, you've already begun to feel the shape of tomorrow. Because even if the future isn't set in stone, even if it shifts with every choice you make, it may still be something your mind is gently reaching toward. A place it visits in dreams, not to predict, but to prepare. And that too is a kind of knowing. Let's pause again, just for a moment, and ask something quietly. Not in the voice of a physicist with a blackboard, nor in the hurried tone of a ticking clock, but in the voice of a person watching dust settle in a sunbeam. Which direction does time truly go? You might answer instinctively, it moves forward. After all, eggs don't uncrack. A puddle doesn't leap back into the sky. The candle, once burned, doesn't grow taller again. From where you stand, time always flows from what was toward what's next. It has an arrow sharp and clear, always pointing away from the past and into the future. We are carried by it, passively, like leaves on a river. But what if that flow isn't built into time itself? What if it's not a river at all? In the world of physics, the passage of time, this forward drift we so deeply rely on, is not quite as simple as it feels. The laws that govern motion, matter, and even the strange dance of quantum particles don't actually require time to move in one direction. If you reversed everything, flipped every atom's path, rewound every collision, the equations would still hold. There's nothing in the math that says this is the past and this is the future. So then, where does the arrow come from? The answer, as strange and as quiet as it may sound, lies in a single word: entropy. Entropy is a measure of disorder, or more precisely, of how many different ways a system can be arranged without changing its overall state. A neat row of dominoes has low entropy. There's only one way to place them perfectly. But after they fall and scatter across the table, there are countless possible arrangements. That's high entropy. Nature, it turns out, has a tendency, a deep, consistent one, to move from lower entropy to higher, from order to disorder, from structure to complexity, and then eventually to chaos. It's not a rule in the way gravity is a rule. It's more like a strong preference. And this preference gives rise to what we call the arrow of time. When you pour milk into coffee, it spreads out, swirls, and vanishes into the mixture. You never see it unmix. That's entropy at work. The same is true of ice melting, ink dispersing in water, and yes, of our lives moving in one direction. Entropy increases. That's what makes before different from after. It's not time that's moving, it's change that's unfolding. Let's use a gentle image. Imagine you've made yourself a cup of tea. Steam rises softly. You set it on the table, step away, and return 5 minutes later. It's gone cold. The heat, once organised in the cup, has dispersed into the room. That's entropy. The tea didn't choose to change, but change happened anyway. And in its quiet cooling, time has passed. Not because the tea moved through a timeline, but because the world became less arranged. Now imagine the same tea, but in reverse. The heat flows back into the cup. Steam gathers downward. Water grows warmer. The process looks alien, unnatural, even wrong. And yet, the laws of motion would still technically allow it. The only thing stopping it, really, is probability. Things don't tend to move toward more order, because there are far fewer ways for order to exist than for disorder to flourish. So time, in physics, does not flow. It unfolds, depending on which direction disorder is increasing. The future isn't ahead because clocks tick that way. It's ahead because it's where the chaos is going. The arrow isn't built into the universe. It's built into the story the universe is telling, one where each page is more scribbled than the last. It's a humbling idea, one that asks you to rethink what you mean when you say something happened. You don't travel forward, you change, and change accumulates. That's time. And yet this picture doesn't feel quite complete, because you don't experience entropy. You don't measure time by milk spreading or tea cooling. You measure it by birthdays, by the way your hands look a little different than they did last year, by memories that feel further away, by the simple, unstoppable motion of morning turning into night. There's something else in time, something not explained entirely by physics, and perhaps that's why we keep searching for metaphors. We say time is a river, but rivers turn. We say it's a thread, but threads can knot and snap. Some traditions imagine time as a wheel, endlessly turning. Others as a spiral, always circling but never quite returning to the same point. In physics, time might be best imagined as a dimension, like space, but even that fails to capture how it feels to be inside it. So maybe time isn't just an arrow. Maybe it's a bloom, a flower that opens gradually, petal by petal, each one holding a moment, a memory, a possibility. You don't see the full flower at once, but you know by the scent in the air that it's growing, that the centre is still hidden and the outermost edges are already fading. Time doesn't push you, it unfolds around you. The arrow, then, is only part of the picture, and the bloom, that soft expansion of what is becoming, may be the truer shape. So, the next time you feel the tug of urgency, or the ache of a moment slipping away, remember this: you are not being carried helplessly on a current. You are living inside something that opens, and while entropy may give it structure, your experience, your memories, your attention, your breath is what gives it form. And in that form, time isn't racing, it's blooming. Imagine two twins, born on the same day, from the same mother, in the same city. They grow up side by side, laugh at the same jokes, fight over the same things, and dream, perhaps only half seriously, of one day travelling to the stars, and one day one of them does. While one twin remains on Earth, walking beneath familiar skies, the other boards a spacecraft and flies away at a speed no human has ever known. Not forever, just for a while, and then they return. And something strange has happened. The twin who stayed on Earth has aged more than the one who travelled. Years have passed for one, but only months, or perhaps weeks, for the other. They meet again, but now they are no longer the same age. Their clocks, once synchronized, no longer agree. This is not science fiction. It's not a thought experiment invented to entertain. It is, according to Einstein's theory of relativity, a real and measurable consequence of how time behaves when subjected to motion and gravity. It's called time dilation. And though the scenario of the spacefaring twin is dramatic, the underlying truth happens around you every single day. You might be surprised to learn that the GPS satellites orbiting above your head have to account for both types of time dilation, one due to speed and one due to gravity, just to work properly. Without compensating for these distortions, your phone's location would drift by kilometres each day. That's how real this effect is. It's not curiosity, it's woven into our technology, and therefore into our lives. But let's take a gentle step back. How did Einstein arrive at this strange view of time? In the early 20th century, the reigning belief was that time was absolute, that no matter where you were or how you moved, there was one grand clock in the universe ticking uniformly for everyone. But Einstein saw cracks in that certainty. He proposed that time was not a fixed stage upon which events unfold, but a dimension intertwined with space itself, what we now call space-time. And in this new fabric, time is relative. Move quickly, especially close to the speed of light, and time slows down for you, relative to someone standing still. Stand closer to a massive object, like a planet or a black hole, and gravity stretches time, making it pass more slowly for you than it would for someone farther away. This isn't just metaphor, it's measurable. Atomic clocks flown on airplanes tick more slowly than those left on the ground. Time, it turns out, is not a universal river. It's a landscape of shifting currents, different depths, and varied flows, depending on how you move and where you stand. This idea was, and remains, deeply counterintuitive. We don't feel time stretching. We don't return from flights noticeably younger. But the universe does not operate according to what we feel. It follows the structure of its own laws, quiet and vast, indifferent to human intuition. And yet, there's something hauntingly beautiful in the realization that time is not the same for everyone. That each of us carries a slightly different tempo, a personal timeline shaped by our motion through space and the gravity beneath our feet. You are, quite literally, experiencing time in your own unique way. It invites a deeper question. If time can stretch and bend, what does it mean to be on time? What does it mean to say that something is happening now? In Einstein's world, now is not a universal agreement. Two observers, far apart in space, might disagree on whether two events happen simultaneously, and neither would be wrong. This concept, the relativity of simultaneity, shatters our everyday assumption that there's one single present moment shared by all. There isn't. The idea of now becomes local, personal, a slice of the universe seen from your vantage point. It may sound isolating, but it's also quietly profound, because it means that you are not late, you're just elsewhere in time. If someone across the galaxy waved to you, you wouldn't see it instantly. Their now would arrive to you years later, riding on the back of light. Their time, their smile, would drift across the cosmos before it touched your eyes. Even on Earth, when you look at the moon, you're seeing light that left it a second and a half ago. You're always looking into the past, never the true, precise present. And if that's true, then perhaps our experience of time is not about pinpointing where we are in a sequence, but about recognizing how delicately time interacts with space, with gravity, with motion, with us. Maybe time is not a thread pulled taut from past to future, but a fabric, and every person is a gentle wrinkle in it, a ripple where space-time curves inward to carry their story. You are, in a sense, your own clock, and everyone you meet is moving through their own slightly tilted corridor of time, just a little faster here, a little slower there, depending on how they stand, how they move, and what they orbit. So when you say, "It's time to go," or "I'll be there soon," what you're really doing is reaching across a bendy, stretchy, invisible terrain, hoping to meet someone where your timelines briefly align. It's a quiet miracle that we ever arrive at the same place, at the same moment, and say, "Now." And if we do, if you're listening to this right now, here, in this particular fragment of time, then maybe, just maybe, this is where our timelines are gently touching. For a little while, before they drift again. Because time, it turns out, does not belong to the universe. It belongs to you. Try to imagine time not as something that flows, but as something that simply is. Not a thread unravelling behind and ahead of you, but a vast, complete structure. A landscape that stretches in all directions. In this view, the past has not vanished, and the future is not waiting to be built. They both exist already, just beyond the edges of your current awareness, like rooms in a house you haven't yet entered. This is the idea behind what physicists call the block universe, a concept that rises gently out of Einstein's relativity and invites you to rethink what it means for something to exist in time. In the block universe, time is treated like space. Imagine a loaf of bread. Not one slice, not a single moment, but the entire loaf, already baked. Every point in the loaf represents an event, the first spark of the Big Bang, the birth of stars, the rise of oceans, the moment you took your first breath, the exact second you are reading this. All of it, past, present, future, is there. All at once, not unfolding, just existing. To you right now, that may sound strange, maybe even uncomfortable, because your experience tells you that time flows. You remember what was, you anticipate what's next, you feel change. But in the block universe, this experience of movement is not something time is doing. It's something you are doing. Or more precisely, it's something your consciousness is doing as it travels through the static structure of space-time, like a flashlight sweeping across a mural. From your vantage point, only the present is lit. But the rest of the mural, the moments ahead and behind, is still there, already painted. Your awareness just hasn't reached them yet. This model does not suggest that the future is fixed in some mystical sense, nor does it rob you of free will. Instead, it paints a quiet picture of coexistence, of time as a geography, rather than a storybook being written line by line. When you walk through a forest, the trees ahead of you are already standing. You just haven't reached them yet, and so it may be with time. Some physicists argue that this model is the most natural interpretation of Einstein's equations. After all, once you accept that there's no universal now, that simultaneity is relative, then there's no objective way to divide the universe into past and future slices. All slices are equally real. Your now is not special, it's just a coordinate. And so, in this view, reality must include all of time, not just the part you're currently experiencing. It's not easy to think this way. Your whole mind is built to believe in a flowing present, in causes and effects that march forward. But if you step back just enough to feel more like a traveller and less like a narrator, you can begin to see the elegance in it. Imagine, for a moment, that your life is a path through a mountain range. You are hiking a winding trail, one step at a time, seeing new peaks and valleys as you go. But from high above, from the perspective of a bird or a satellite, the whole path is visible. Every twist and turn, every campsite and summit. The beginning, the middle, the end. All of it. Not being written, not being erased, just existing. You're still free to walk it, to feel each footfall, to pause when you wish, to hurry or slow down. But the path, in its entirety, is already there. This is what it means to live in a block universe. And perhaps it's not as cold or rigid as it seems. In fact, it might be more generous than the version of time we're used to. Because in this model, nothing is ever truly lost. The kiss you gave someone years ago, the moment you held your breath before saying something brave, the instant you watched the sky break open into sunrise, those things have not disappeared. They are still there, somewhere in the fabric of space-time, waiting patiently in their place on the map. You can't return to them physically, but knowing they still exist in some dimension may offer a strange kind of comfort, that no moment is gone, only unreachable for now. And the future, it's there too, not pre-decided but present, waiting. A garden not yet walked through, a room you haven't opened, and perhaps your journey through that garden, your arrival in that room, is what creates the sensation of time moving forward. It's easy to dismiss this as abstraction, but sometimes the most abstract truths are the ones that mirror our feelings most precisely. Have you ever sensed a memory waiting for you? Felt as though something important had already happened somewhere deep inside, just not yet visible? Have you ever felt, without reason, that something beautiful was just around the corner? Perhaps these intuitions are not predictions, but echoes, ripples from elsewhere in the block, not because you've seen the future, but because you are slowly entering it. And in the end, whether or not the block universe is the true shape of reality may matter less than the quiet reassurance it offers, that time is not slipping through your fingers, that you're not drifting helplessly down a stream, that everything you have loved, every word you have spoken, every gentle unfolding of who you are and who you've been is still there, held in the architecture of time, not gone, just elsewhere. You might think of memory as a file cabinet. Open a drawer, pull out the moment you need, your first day of school, the sound of someone's voice, the taste of coffee on a quiet morning, and it's all there, waiting for you, unchanged and intact. But memory is not a cabinet. It's not a photograph. It's not even a tape that replays. Memory is something far stranger, far more fluid. Every time you remember something, you are not pulling it out. You are rebuilding it. Inside your brain, particularly in a region called the hippocampus, memories are not stored like books on a shelf. Instead, they are distributed across networks, woven into the structures of your sensory experience, your language, your emotions. To recall a moment is to reassemble it, to light up the same circuits that first recorded its pieces, and then gently stitch them back together into something coherent. But coherence is not the same as accuracy. And so, with each recollection, a memory is subtly altered. Not necessarily distorted in a dramatic way, but recontextualized. Coloured by your current emotions, reshaped by the stories you tell yourself, adjusted by what you've learned since. This is why two people can recall the same event differently. Why something you once thought insignificant becomes, in retrospect, deeply meaningful. Why a childhood joy or sorrow can feel more vivid or more distant, depending on where you are now. Your memory is a painter, not a photographer, and your sense of self is the gallery in which those paintings hang. Of course, the core structures of memory are still tied to biology. The hippocampus is crucial, not just for forming new memories, but for allowing you to locate yourself in time. People with damage to this region often cannot form new episodic memories. They live in a kind of eternal present, aware but disconnected, unable to place themselves within a personal timeline. The hippocampus, then, is not just the warehouse of the past. It's the clock tower of your experience. But memory is not just about what happened, it's about how it felt. This is why some memories glow, while others fade into static. Emotion acts like a spotlight, drawing your brain's attention to certain events, tagging them as significant. The more intense the emotion, the more likely your brain is to preserve it. This is why you might remember exactly where you were during a heartbreak, or a moment of unexpected beauty, or a loss that rearranged the shape of your world. It's not the information that makes the memory stick, it's the feeling. This emotional tagging can be helpful. It helps us learn, avoid danger, pursue joy. But it also means that memory is not neutral. It favours the dramatic, the meaningful, the urgent. It can overemphasize trauma, underrepresent peace. It can make certain parts of the past loom large, while others disappear altogether. And sometimes, memories don't arrive when you call them. Sometimes they drift in uninvited, half forgotten, half imagined. A smell, a sound, a word in passing, and suddenly you're somewhere else. Not reliving a moment exactly, but standing at the edge of it, feeling its shape pressed gently against your present. These aren't just accidents. They're part of how memory works. Your brain is constantly sifting, organising, reshaping, reweaving your story. Not just to recall the past, but to make sense of who you are now. Because memory, ultimately, is not just a record. It's a mirror held to identity, a way of understanding continuity in a world of change. You're not the same person you were 10 years ago, but your memories help you believe that the you of then and the you of now are somehow connected, that the story makes sense. And perhaps this is why memory feels so fragile, so precious, so strangely sacred. Because it is not just a tool, it is a place, a kind of internal landscape, built not of facts but of moments, a terrain you wander when you dream, or reminisce, or simply close your eyes and let yourself drift backward. You don't just remember, you visit. But unlike a video you can pause or rewind, memory does not unfold the same way twice. Each return trip is a reconstruction. The old path remains, but the scenery may have changed. Your footsteps are new, and in this way, memory is less like a mirror, more like a lantern. It illuminates part of the past, never the whole thing. It casts light in a circle, but the shadows shift each time you lift it. So what, then, does this mean for your relationship with time? It means that your past is not behind you, fixed and silent. It is alive inside you, moving with you, changing as you do. The you who remembers is not the same as the you who lived, and the memory that returns is not a prisoner, it is a visitor, knocking gently at the door of now. And perhaps that is enough. You don't need perfect records to know who you are. You only need a story you can hold, one that grows as you grow, that fades in parts and brightens in others, that carries your experiences not like data, but like light. Because in the end, your memory is not a database, it's a song, and you are still humming its tune. If you close your eyes and imagine yourself walking into a room you've never seen before, you might be surprised how easily your mind fills in the details. The way the light slants across the floor, the creak of the floorboards beneath your feet, the quiet, unfamiliar scent of the air. And yet, this room doesn't exist. at least not in the way we usually use that word. It exists only as a possibility, a mental construction, and you built it instantly from fragments of memory, instinct, and imagination. You've just performed something extraordinary, something your brain does constantly, silently, and without ceremony. You've simulated a future. For years, scientists believed memory's primary function was to help us remember the past. But now, increasingly, research suggests that one of memory's deepest purposes is to help us imagine what hasn't happened yet. In other words, the same structures that allow you to remember are the ones that allow you to predict, to plan, and to project yourself forward in time. Your hippocampus, which helps stitch together memories from the past, is also crucial when imagining scenes in the future. When people with damage to this area are asked to describe what they'll do tomorrow or envision a vacation next year, they often struggle. Not because they lack ideas, but because they lack the mental architecture to construct the scene. Memory, it turns out, is also your future-building engine. This overlap is called the default mode network, a set of interconnected brain regions that become active when your mind is at rest. Daydreaming, remembering, wondering, drifting. It's the space where time becomes elastic, where the mind wanders forward and backward, weaving together a coherent sense of self across the river of moments. When you imagine something that hasn't happened yet, you're not predicting in a cold, calculated way. You're rehearsing, emotionally and narratively, for what might come. This happens in small ways all the time. You imagine what you'll say in a conversation before you speak. You picture how someone might react. You visualize where you'll sit at a cafe you haven't visited yet. These are not just idle thoughts. They are quiet, neural rehearsals, practice runs for a world not yet written. But it goes further than logistics. You also simulate the emotions of the future. You anticipate how something will make you feel. You brace yourself for discomfort. You lean toward joy. The brain doesn't just build scenes, it infuses them with feeling, drawing on your past to create a projected inner weather forecast. If something similar once caused pain, your future simulations might feel heavy, even if the situation is new. If something once brought delight, your projections glow more warmly. And while these forecasts are not always accurate, they are deeply influential. Your imagined futures shape the choices you make today. They guide your hesitation, your bravery, your caution, your excitement. In that sense, your future is not just something you're moving toward. It's something you're already living in pieces. Psychologists sometimes call this ability prospection, but it's more than a function. It's a kind of mental time travel, and it's uniquely human in its richness. Animals can react, anticipate, even learn patterns, but as far as we know, they don't sit and imagine their birthdays 5 years from now. They don't wonder what retirement will feel like, or how they'll be remembered. You do. Not because you're obsessed with control, but because your sense of identity is tethered to the idea of what might come next. You have, inside you, countless versions of your future self. They live in your mind like folded paper animals, unfolded only when you think of them. The confident version of you who aced the presentation, the tired version who didn't sleep enough, the one who took the leap, the one who didn't. Each one imagined, evaluated, felt, and in that internal landscape, you are not just preparing, you are choosing. This may be one of the quiet miracles of being human, that you don't simply drift toward the future, you pre-live it, a little at a time. You wander through its possibilities. You set your emotional compass. You build bridges to moments that haven't happened yet. And this building, this imagining, is not wasted effort. Studies show that mentally simulating a task, whether it's practicing a sport, preparing for a speech, or navigating a tough decision, can physically prime your brain for better performance. It's as if your neurons say, we've been here before, even when your body hasn't. The path has been traced softly, invisibly, ahead of time. But it's not just about performance, it's also about comfort. The act of imagining the future helps soften its edges. Even when the future is uncertain, the mere fact that you've visited it in your mind can make it feel less alien, less frightening, more like a place where you belong. And so, you carry with you not only memories, but drafts of what's ahead. Not prophecies, not guarantees, but sketches, possibilities, maps drawn in pencil, updated daily, sometimes hourly. You may not follow every one, you may get lost. But the fact that you create them, that you imagine, simulate and rehearse, means that you're never truly walking into the unknown. Part of you has already been there. And when you get there, wherever there may be, you might recognize something. A feeling, a thought, a strange familiarity, like a dream you almost remembered. Because your mind, quiet and curious, was already reaching forward, not to control the future, but to greet it, to say softly, "I've thought of you, I've made room." Not all time is equal. You've known this, not as a theory, but as a feeling. A single minute can stretch like a long shadow when you're waiting for something painful, or collapse into nothing when you're laughing with someone you love. A morning can feel like an eternity if it begins with bad news. An entire week can vanish when you're caught in a rhythm, creating, moving, not even noticing the hours slide past. We talk about time as if it's a uniform thread, as if each second is stitched into the next with precision. But that's not how we feel it. That's not how we live it. And perhaps that's because time, as experienced, is shaped not by the clock, but by the self. It's not just measured by hands on a watch. It's measured by emotion, attention, and memory. By whether you are fully present or distracted, at peace or afraid. Fear is perhaps the clearest example. When something suddenly threatens you, a car swerving into your lane, a noise in the dark, time seems to slow. Your heartbeat accelerates, but your perception expands. You notice every detail, the rustle of leaves, the angle of light, the exact words someone just said. It feels like a moment is being stretched, pulled wider to accommodate the urgency. Scientists believe this happens because of how your brain encodes events during high-stress situations. The amygdala, the region of the brain involved in fear and emotion, becomes more active, enhancing the recording of the moment. It's not that time actually slows, but that more information is being packed into each second, and later, when you recall it, that density creates the illusion of a longer duration. Joy, meanwhile, does the opposite. When you're immersed in something pleasurable, playing, laughing, dancing, even just watching the clouds shift across the sky, time seems to fly. You look up, and hours have passed. You feel surprised, maybe even cheated. Where did the time go? This is often described as being in flow, a mental state where your attention is fully engaged, your skills are well matched to the task, and your self-awareness diminishes. In flow, you're no longer watching the clock. You're not outside of time, observing it. You're inside it, moving with it, indistinguishable from its rhythm. And then there is boredom, the soft, dragging ache of empty minutes. Time in boredom seems to move in slow motion. It stretches and lingers. It resists momentum. This too is an illusion created by attention. When you're disengaged, when nothing captures your interest, your awareness turns inward, and each moment begins to echo, filling itself with longing to be anywhere else. The slowness of boredom is not about time's actual pace. It's about how hard it is to sit still inside your own mind. These differences in time perception are not just curiosities, they affect memory, emotion, and even identity. Think of a childhood summer. The days felt endless. You remember them as long, detailed, almost cinematic. Now, years pass and you wonder how they vanish so quickly. It's not that time moved faster, it's that as routines solidify, novelty fades, and attention splinters, less mental spaces devoted to each day. The more similar your days, the less distinct they feel in memory. That's why new experiences, travelling, learning something challenging, meeting someone who changes you, tend to expand time. They give your brain something to notice, something to anchor itself to, something that leaves a trace. And this brings us to a more complicated relationship, the one between time and trauma. For some, time doesn't just slow, it stops. Or worse, it loops. People who have experienced trauma often describe a sense of being frozen in a moment. Days or years may pass, but inside something remains suspended. A sound, a face, a fragment of light. These can bring the past rushing into the present, vivid and uninvited. It's not just remembering, it's reliving. The brain, in trying to protect itself, encodes the event so intensely that it remains ready at all times, a constant alert. For those living with this, the arrow of time can feel broken. Like the wound is still open, even if the world has moved on. But the opposite is also true. Time can become gentle, even timeless, under certain conditions. Meditative states, moments of awe, even stillness in nature. These can produce a feeling that time has softened or disappeared entirely. You stop measuring, you stop anticipating. You're simply here, breathing, listening, alive. This is not a trick, it's a shift in awareness. It's what some philosophers call the eternal present, a moment outside of measurement, where the future does not demand and the past does not pull. It's rare. But when it comes, it feels like home. So what does all this tell us? It tells us that time is not only in the universe, it is in you. And it takes shape depending on how you feel, how you focus, and how you remember. The seconds may be fixed, but their meaning is not. You're not just a passenger in time, you're a participant. You stretch it, compress it, colour it, forget it, and bring it vividly back to life. And this is the great paradox of being human, that while physics tells us time is objective, your mind experiences it as fluid, elastic, deeply personal. You can't control its passage, but you can shape your experience within it. You can savour, you can pause, you can slow down, not the clock, but the feeling of living. And maybe on nights like this, when you listen closely, when the world is quiet and your attention is soft, you can feel time not as something to chase, or fear, or regret, but as something gentle, textured and alive. Something that, for just a little while, belongs entirely to you. You might not think of yourself as ancient. After all, your heart beats now. Your breath fills this very moment. Your thoughts belong to today. But somewhere deep inside you, hidden in spirals and folded strands, there are instructions that were written long before you arrived. Instructions whispered from parents, grandparents, generations you'll never meet. You are quite literally made of messages from the past. Your body carries time, not as memory, not as emotion, but as code. DNA, the molecule of life, is often described as a blueprint, a guide to building you. But it's more than that. It's a story, written in a 4-letter alphabet, A, T, C and G, that traces your biological ancestry back through millennia. Every cell in your body holds this record. It tells your eyes what colour to be. It tells your bones how long to grow. It carries the echo of your ancestors' successes, their adaptations, their responses to environments you've never seen. But DNA isn't only about the past. It's also a vessel of potential. Not everything written in your genome is activated. Some genes are like seeds, waiting, dormant, silent unless called upon. Others are more like switches, turned on or off depending on what you eat, how you sleep, what you feel. This is the world of epigenetics, a field of science that studies how experience shapes biology. Imagine two identical books, the same words printed on every page. But in one book, certain lines are highlighted, other parts are crossed out, sticky notes are added in the margins. That's epigenetics. The same DNA can lead to different outcomes depending on what the body has been through, and those changes in some cases can even be passed down, meaning your experiences might gently nudge the biology of your future descendants. You're not just carrying information, you're editing it, constantly. You're not only made of what was, you're full of what could be. In this sense, your body is a kind of time capsule. Not sealed, not static, but evolving. It contains not only the past designs, but also blueprints for the future. Futures that depend on how you live, what you're exposed to, who you love, what you fear, what you eat, what you overcome. Inside you are countless possibilities, not all of which will be realised. They're there, quietly present, like unopened letters addressed to tomorrow. This is the idea of latency, a word that means readiness, potential, the state of being available but not yet expressed. Your cells are full of latency. So is your life. Every path not taken still leaves its shape in the air behind you. Every fork in the road whispers, "It could have been this." And remarkably, this isn't just poetic, it's biological. Consider how your body responds to stress. Short bursts can strengthen you, sharpen your focus, boost your immune system. But chronic stress over time begins to alter gene expression. It can influence inflammation, metabolism, mood, and these changes can ripple outward, not just in you, but in those who come after you. Studies have shown that children of people who survived famine or trauma or migration sometimes carry subtle biological traces of those experiences. The body remembers even if the mind does not. And so, time is not only behind you, it's within you, carried in cells and molecules triggered and shaped by experience. This idea, that biology holds both the past and the future, has implications far beyond the personal. It invites a kind of reverence. You are not a blank slate, you are a continuation, and perhaps even more humbling. You are a bridge, a carrier of instructions, a keeper of unfinished stories, a steward of possibilities that may outlive you. In every decision, what you breathe, how you sleep, who you connect with, you are shaping not only yourself but potentially the small branches of human life that stretch forward from you. You're part of a chain, soft and resilient, spanning centuries. Your DNA doesn't just tell a story, it waits for one. And the body, patient and intricate, carries it all without question. You don't have to instruct your cells to divide. You don't have to remind your liver how to filter toxins, or your skin how to heal, or your bones how to grow. These are timed symphonies, conducted invisibly by signals shaped over billions of years. They are memory, and they are intention. Not conscious intention, but biological purpose, to continue, to adapt, to unfold. You may feel at times that life is rushing by, that the days are slipping, the choices are small, the impact unclear. But inside you is a timeline written in code, some of it stretching back to ocean-dwelling creatures, some of it preparing for conditions that haven't yet arrived. You're a living document, always being revised. And that revision is not just survival, it's storytelling. Each breath, each adaptation, each choice is a quiet note in a score that echoes forward, even if no one reads the whole thing, even if it's written in a language no one yet fully understands. So tonight, as you rest, know this. Your body is not still. It is humming with time. 1,000 tiny clocks ticking in every cell, harmonizing with genes that remember and genes that anticipate. You are in every sense a capsule of time, sent forward from the deep past into a future that is still unfolding. Sometimes, when the night is especially clear and the sky feels less like a ceiling and more like an invitation, you might find yourself looking up, not searching for anything in particular, but simply allowing the stars to speak in their slow, flickering language. What you see, though beautiful, is not what is, it's what was. Every star you see is a message from the past. Light moves incredibly fast, about 300,000 kilometers per second. But the universe is vast beyond comprehension, and even light, with all its speed, takes time to arrive. The nearest star to us, other than the Sun, is over 4 light years away. That means when you gaze at it, you're seeing light that left that star 4 years ago. And some of the stars you see, especially the faint ones trembling near the edge of vision, sent their light hundreds, thousands, even millions of years ago. Some of them, by now, may no longer exist at all, but their light still travels. It still arrives. The sky is not a photograph of the present. It is a layered archive of ancient messages, all arriving together, whispering what they once were. And that includes the oldest light of all. In every direction, wrapped around you like an invisible shell, is something called the cosmic microwave background, or CMB. It is the leftover light from the very first time the universe became transparent, about 380,000 years after the Big Bang. Before that moment, the universe was too hot and dense for light to travel freely. But when things cooled just enough, photons broke free and began their journey. They have been travelling ever since, gently stretched by the expansion of the universe, becoming colder and fainter until they reached us, bathed in microwave light still echoing from the beginning. When we detect the CMB with satellites and special telescopes, we're not just looking far, we're looking deep into the very structure of time itself. We're seeing the afterglow of creation, not as myth, but as measurement. And yet, not all cosmic memory is so far away. Look at the moon. It's easy to take for granted, familiar, constant, comforting. But it is a kind of silent fossil, orbiting us with a face that hasn't changed in billions of years. Its surface is not swept by wind, or washed by rain, or stirred by tectonic shifts. It simply keeps what it has received. Footprints left by astronauts in 1969 are still there, undisturbed. Craters from ancient impacts remain frozen in place. The dust, fine as powder, has settled into a stillness that remembers more than any photograph. Some of that dust is older than any living thing on Earth. It has never tasted water, never known atmosphere, never been erased. If you held it in your hand, carefully sealed in a laboratory sample, you would be holding unchanged memory. Not of events you can name, but of conditions. A quiet record of how things once were, in a time long before breath. This kind of memory, written not in neurons or DNA but in matter itself, asks you to think differently about time. It suggests that time doesn't just pass through the universe keeps it. Like sediment building at the bottom of a lake, or tree rings thickening with every season, the cosmos accumulates traces, not with intention, not with urgency, but with persistence. We live in a world made of these traces, rocks that carry isotopes from exploding stars, fossils that capture a snapshot of an ancient steppe or a fleeting ripple in sand, ice cores from Antarctica that trap air bubbles from 800,000 years ago, tiny, fragile samples of ancient breaths. The Earth holds time in its minerals, the moon holds it in its dust, the sky holds it in photons drifting from impossibly far away. And we, standing quietly beneath it all, hold time in our gaze. Because when you look at the stars, you're not just witnessing beauty, you're receiving memory. The universe, for all its violence and mystery, has never stopped sending us its story. And though we are small, momentary, ephemeral, we're also the only creatures we know who can read that story, who can gather it, decipher it, and feel its weight. You're part of that story now. You're made of elements forged in stars, your bones echoing the calcium of ancient oceans, your blood carrying iron born from stellar collapse. You walk on ground that was once lava, breathe air shaped by photosynthetic ancestors, and think thoughts in a brain whose chemistry is built from atoms older than the planet itself. Time, in this sense, is not abstract. It is material. It surrounds you, anchors you, builds you. You're not floating above the past. You are woven into it. And when you look at the moon, or watch a star flicker in the distance, or touch a stone warmed by the sun, you're brushing against moments that still exist. Not in memory alone, but in matter. There is comfort in this, that nothing truly disappears, that the universe forgets slowly, if at all, that dust and light and gravity are all storytellers, speaking in the soft dialect of duration. So when you look up at night and feel something ancient stir inside you, trust that feeling. You are not imagining it. You are remembering something that was never yours but has always been shared. So far, we've spoken of time written in light, in dust, in the spiral of DNA, quiet records of what has been. But what about the reverse? Can we write into the future? Can we leave behind messages not just as memories or fossils, but as intentions, deliberate, living changes that shape what hasn't happened yet? That question isn't as philosophical as it might sound, because today, for the first time in human history, we are learning to edit the instructions of life itself. At the centre of this possibility is a tool called CRISPR, a technology that allows scientists to make precise targeted changes to DNA. You might think of it as a form of molecular scissors, but it's more than that. It's a way of composing genetic sentences, of editing the biological text, of potentially removing the codes for disease, or adding resilience, or reprogramming how cells behave. CRISPR is not the first tool of its kind, but it is by far the most accessible, precise, and versatile. In the right hands, it can alter bacteria, crops, animals, even human embryos. In laboratories around the world, it's already being used to explore therapies for conditions like sickle cell anemia, muscular dystrophy, and certain forms of cancer. It holds enormous promise, and enormous responsibility, because when you begin to shape the biology of the future, you're no longer only reacting to time, you are writing into it. And that's where things grow delicate. It's one thing to remember the past, to interpret fossils, decode genes, or read the afterglow of the Big Bang. But it's another thing entirely to reach forward with a pen and attempt to leave your own handwriting in the future's journal. There's a temptation, of course, to imagine eliminating suffering, perfecting the body, granting immunity before birth. But biology is never that simple. Every change has consequences. Every gene participates in systems we still barely understand. Even the most carefully made edit ripples outward through generations, through ecosystems, through what it means to be human. And that's before you even reach the ethical questions. Should we do it? Should we choose who gets changed and how and why? If one generation decides to shape the next, what kind of power is that? Is it guidance or control, protection or interference? These are not easy questions, and they don't come with tidy answers. But they invite a kind of humility, a recognition that the future is not only a destination, but a recipient. What we do now is not a closed act. It's an offering, a gesture that echoes forward. And that echo isn't limited to science. Even without CRISPR or lab coats or microscopes, you shape the future in smaller ways. Every kindness, every story, every lesson passed from one person to another becomes part of what comes next. Every act of care, every refusal to harm, every moment of patience becomes a kind of genetic signal, passed not through molecules, but through culture, through memory, through meaning. You've probably heard the phrase, a message in a bottle, a simple idea, seal a note, toss it into the sea, hope someone finds it. But CRISPR and all forms of future shaping are something quieter, slower and more powerful. They are messages in biology, sealed not in glass, but in code, tossed not into the ocean, but into time. And here's where the metaphor deepens. Because you too are a message. You didn't choose your genome. You didn't decide how tall you'd be, or what colour your eyes would turn, or whether you'd be more prone to laughter or silence. Those decisions, if they were decisions, were made long before you ever drew breath. But they arrived in you, shaped you, gave you this specific form. You are the result of choices, events, mutations, adaptations, and survival stories older than language. And now you are part of the chain, not passively but actively, because your choices, what you teach, how you raise your children, the stories you tell, the technologies you endorse or reject, will help determine what kind of people come next. Whether they will be stronger, kinder, more thoughtful, whether they will understand where they came from, whether they will know how to ask the questions you're asking now. In this way, the future is not only coming, it is being called, not with certainty, but with direction, not with control, but with care. You're not just a vessel moving through time. You're a bridge, carrying echoes from the past and sending intentions into the unknown. That may sound overwhelming, but it is also beautiful, because it means that no moment is isolated, that your life, however ordinary it may seem, is part of a longer sentence, a paragraph in a story still being written, a small light on a vast timeline, not because you illuminate everything, but because you help show the way forward, even just a little. So tonight, as you rest, consider this. The future is not blank. It's not waiting passively. It's listening. And every breath you take, every word you share, every act you choose, is a kind of message carried forward not just in technology or biology, but in the quiet continuity of being human. You are the message. You are the bottle. You are the sea. There's a quiet shift that happens when you stop thinking of the future as something ahead of you and begin to imagine it as something that's already here, something fixed, unmoving, like a vast landscape through which you are gently passing. It may sound strange at first. Time feels so active, so alive. We speak of it flowing, rushing, slipping through our fingers. But what if that's not what time is doing at all? What if it's not time that's moving, but you? This is the heart of the block universe idea, once again revisited not to analyse it, but to feel it. In this view, every moment that has ever been and ever will be already exists, not as ghosts, not as possibilities, but as real, complete parts of a timeless structure. The past is not gone, the future is not waiting. All of it is already there. You, in your current moment, are simply walking through it. You can imagine this like a cathedral, a vast, vaulted one, stretching in all directions. Each room is a moment. Some are filled with sunlight, others echo with laughter or grief. Some are quiet, some are still being explored. You don't see the entire cathedral all at once. You move from room to room, carried by the pace of consciousness. But each space, each memory, each yet-to-arrive moment is as real as the one you stand in now. Today, you're in this room, the now. But the others still stand. This metaphor offers a comforting reframing. Time becomes not a torrent sweeping you along, but a gallery you explore. You're not losing the past. You're simply no longer standing inside it. You don't need to fear the future, because you're already inside the part that belongs to you right now, and the rest is waiting patiently, not threateningly. It's not rushing toward you. It's simply there. Think of a train ride. Outside your window, the landscape moves, trees slide past, towns rise and vanish. But you know it's not the world that's moving. It's you. The trees are still where they've always been. The cities haven't gone anywhere. It's your position that's changing, your motion that gives the illusion of time flowing. And perhaps your life is much the same. Each moment, each joy, sorrow, breath and heartbeat is a fixed part of the great structure of existence point. You are travelling through time, but time itself does not shift. It's you who passes through. You've always felt this in small ways. Have you ever visited a place you hadn't seen in years and found it unchanged, only to realise how much you had changed? The room is the same, the sidewalk still cracks in the same place, but you, the traveller, are someone new. In the block universe, this isn't just a feeling, it's a framework. Now is not the most real moment. It's just your current coordinate in the grand shape of time, and that shape is vast. Your first day of school, still there. The moment your heart broke open with love or sorrow, still there. The instant you're holding now, this very breath. Part of the same cathedral. None of it is erased. None of it is destroyed. You do not leave moments behind as you move forward. You simply walk through them, and they remain. Like stained glass windows in rooms you've already passed through, still glowing, still real, even if you no longer see the light. This idea doesn't mean you're trapped. It doesn't mean your choices don't matter. What it does suggest is that your life has a shape, not just a direction. That shape includes bends, still points, echoes and loops. It's not flat, it's dimensional. You don't write your life in a single straight line. You weave it, like thread through space. And in this woven structure, every moment has equal presence, equal dignity. That may be the most comforting part of all. Because if every moment exists, if time is a place and not a river, then the beautiful things you've lived are not lost. They are not fading into nothingness. They are part of a structure that holds them, tenderly, in place. The smiles you forgot, the silences you feared, the quiet glances, the decisions, the turning points, they are not gone. They are simply elsewhere now. And the future, it is not rushing toward you. It is already woven in, not predestined, not fixed in content but present in structure, waiting for your arrival like a room you haven't stepped into yet. So you don't have to panic when you can't see what's ahead. You're still walking, and the room will still be there when you reach it. Some may find this idea unnerving, that the future already exists, but perhaps it is no more strange than knowing that the earth spins beneath your feet while you sit still, or that the light from stars takes years to reach your eyes. Reality has always been stranger than comfort suggests, but sometimes that strangeness is a kind of reassurance, because it means you are part of something larger. You're not falling through time. You're moving across something vast, something silent and steady and whole. So rest easy tonight. This moment, like all others, is held in the cathedral. You're inside one room of many, and somewhere ahead, gently waiting, is the room you'll visit next. It's not rushing, it's not fleeing, it's already there, and so are you. It's easy to think of time as something outside of you, an invisible current moving past while you stand still, observing it flow. But time is not only around you, it is within you. It shapes every part of you, moves through every cell, hums in every rhythm that keeps you alive. You're not separate from time, you're made of it. From the moment you begin as a single cell, time is already at work. Your cells don't simply divide, they follow a sequence, timed patterns of growth, expression and rest. Even at the microscopic level, you're a clockwork of unfolding. Your heartbeat began beating weeks before you were born and has kept its rhythm, steady, tireless, unspoken, every moment since. Roughly 100,000 beats per day, nearly 3 billion across a lifetime, not one of them repeated. Each of your organs follows its own timing. Your lungs breathe in cycles, your digestive system pulses in waves, your body temperature rises and falls on a 24-hour rhythm, guided by a master clock in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This tiny region, nestled deep in the hypothalamus, receives signals from the eyes, detecting light and darkness, adjusting the timing of your internal systems like a conductor cues the orchestra. And then there's your brain. Every thought you have, every word you speak, every dream you wander into, none of it would be possible without timing. Neurons don't just fire randomly. They fire in patterns, in rhythms, in carefully coordinated pulses that allow you to think, to feel, to move. The brain's timing networks are so precise that even a fraction of a second delay can cause stuttering, confusion, or loss of coordination. This timing is not just mechanical, it's emotional. You felt it in the way time speeds up when you're excited, or slows when you're afraid. You've noticed how music changes your sense of pace, how silence can stretch into something vast, how anticipation makes minutes feel longer and reflection makes years feel shorter. These aren't illusions, they are embodied truths, proof that your perception of time is not an abstract measurement, but an integrated living process. Your memories are built in time too. As we've explored before, the brain doesn't store them as files, but as sequences, linked events, arranged in causality. You remember what happened because you remember when it happened, in relation to something else. Even dreams, fragmented and surreal as they are, often follow a sort of internal timeline, an emotional logic that unfolds from one image to the next. But it's not just the body or brain that keeps time, it's your very material. The atoms in your body, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, calcium, were formed in the hearts of stars. Not metaphorically, but literally. Billions of years ago, stars lived their lives, collapsed, exploded, and scattered their elements into space. Eventually, those elements became part of this planet, then part of you. So even your bones are clocks in a sense, holding the memory of cosmic time, built from stardust that existed long before Earth had continents or clouds or breath. And the structure of your life, the way you measure your days, is also steeped in time's influence. We wake and sleep in response to the turning of the Earth. We celebrate birthdays, anniversaries, revolutions of the sun. The passing of time gives shape to meaning. A new year, a final goodbye, a moment of stillness remembered forever. Culture too is an architecture of time. Language carries tenses. Music is built in tempo. Rituals mark beginnings and endings. Even silence, when shared, becomes a unit of time. A pause that holds presence. So what does it mean then to say you are made of time? It means that time is not a backdrop to your life. It is woven through you, as deeply as your DNA. It means you're not just passing through a timeline. You're a participant in its rhythm. Every heartbeat, every blink, every moment of attention is a note in a long symphony that began before you and will continue long after. You are the result of billions of timed processes, each one unfolding in sequence, building upon the last. Your growth, your voice, your thoughts, your healing, your dreams, all of them are temporal patterns, repeated but never identical. And you're not alone in this. Trees keep time in their rings, tides in their rise and fall, birds in their migrations, flowers in their opening and closing. The world breathes in cycles. The universe unfolds in phases. Galaxies rotate. Stars are born, burn and die. All according to sequences we have only begun to understand. Even the black holes, mysterious as they are, may hold time differently. Not as a stream, but as a curvature. Even gravity bends time. Even distance changes how time is felt. And still, somehow, you are here, timed down to the flicker of a nerve cell, yet filled with a sense of eternity. You're not an interruption in the universe's rhythm. You're one of its rhythms. And that may be the most beautiful truth of all, because it means that no matter how chaotic life may feel, you're never fully out of sync. The deeper rhythm, the one below the noise, below the rushing, still holds you, quietly, steadily, without effort. So as you settle into sleep, know that your body will continue to keep time for you. Your heart will not forget. Your cells will continue their work. The stars above you will move through the sky in their slow, ancient arcs. And you, without needing to try, will remain part of it all, not separate, not drifting, but timed, exactly as you are meant to be. By now, the idea that the future might already exist doesn't feel quite so foreign. You've wandered through cells and galaxies, clocks and memories, breath and biology. You've felt time not only as a distant mystery, but as something folded into you, something you carry, shape and live through. And now we return to the question that began it all. If the future already exists, what does that mean for you? Not in the abstract sense, not as a puzzle for physicists, but as something quietly personal, as something you can lie down with, close your eyes beside and gently breathe into. Maybe it means this, that your life has always had a place, that in the grand map of time, whether fixed or unfolding, you're always going to be here. Not accidentally, not suddenly, but as part of the pattern. A ripple in the fabric, a moment in the cathedral, a presence that was already written into the walls. Think of all the versions of yourself that you've been. The child, full of wonder or confusion or quiet solitude. The teenager, searching, testing, aching. The adult, still unsure, still becoming. The soft daydreams of who you hoped you might be. The fears you buried. The joys that surprised you. All of them are still part of you. They haven't vanished. They are not past. They are rooms you've walked through. Rooms that still echo with your laughter, or hold your silence gently like a folded blanket left behind. And ahead, yes, even there, are rooms you haven't yet entered. But they are not empty. They hold versions of you that are waiting to be met. The you who learns something unexpected. The you who forgives. The you who finally says what needs to be said. The you who finds peace. These selves are not predictions. They are possibilities with place. They are shaped not by fate, but by participation, by your presence, by your willingness to walk into the next room and see what's waiting. You might never meet all of them, but they are there. And perhaps the most gentle thought of all is this. You are the future someone else once dreamed of. Maybe it was a parent hoping for a child who would grow strong and kind. Maybe it was an ancestor generations ago praying that their descendants would survive, that their bloodline would continue. Maybe it was you 10 years ago wondering if you'd ever make it through. Or maybe it was no one in particular, just the quiet wish, echoing through time that someone would be here, that life would go on, that meaning would find form again. And now, here you are, breathing, listening, wondering, alive. You don't have to understand exactly how time works to feel the weight of that. You don't have to solve the paradoxes to live beautifully inside them. Whether the future is fixed or unfolding, whether time is a line or a loop or something stranger still, what matters is how you exist in it, with care, with gentleness, with attention. Because even if all of time is already there, even if every breath, every step, every decision is part of a map already drawn, it still matters that you're the one walking through it, that you pause to look at the light, that you speak the words only you would say, that you notice the small things, the way the wind moved today, the shape of someone's smile, the way sleep feels when it finally arrives. You're always going to be here, and yet you still get to choose how. And that is not a contradiction. That is the wonder. You're not stuck in time, nor are you in control of it. You are woven into it, and that is enough. So as we reach the end of this journey, let the questions soften. Let the answers remain open. Let time become, once again, not a thing to chase or fear, but a place to rest. You're not behind. You're not ahead. You're not late. You're exactly where you were meant to be. And so, we close this quiet wandering, not with a conclusion, but with a continuation, because time does not end here, and neither do you. Maybe you'll dream tonight, not just of what's to come, but of all the moments still present within you. Maybe you'll feel time not as a line, but as a stillness, a warmth, a presence. And when you wake, the world will still be there, softly unfolding, already waiting, just like it always has been. You're floating in something gentle. Thank you for being part of this slow journey. The future isn't rushing toward you, it's patiently waiting like a soft shore just beyond sleep.